Warning. This video contains sensitive imagery containing offensive symbology that may offend some viewers, and mildly unpleasant humor. Viewer discretion is advised.
The Ottoman Empire. No, not that Ottoman. Get that off the screen. This Ottoman. You see this Turkish guy? Yeah, he's an Ottoman. And no, you cannot put your feet on him. Alright? That's racist. Jeez. Anyways, the Ottoman Empire, a vast and diverse empire, lived among 600 years of great history, standing tall and true until its demise in 1922. Oh, accidental poetry. How wonderful. The Ottoman Empire was founded in 1299 CE, or 80 if you'd like to go by when the Middle Eastern man who's remembered as a white person in religious history with long flowy hair and robes who walked on water and made it into wine died. It was founded by this guy. His name is Osman Bailiki? Yeah, I give up. His name's Ozzy for short now. Say hi to the class, Ozzy.
Hi.
Very good. Thank you, Ozzy. And no, not Ozzy Osbourne, although that would be pretty cool. The Ottoman Empire had its fair share of conflict throughout the years it existed. Its power was primarily gained when it gained the city of Constantinople, also known as Istanbul.
Istanbul was Constantinople, now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople, been a long time gone. Constantinople, now it's Turkish delight on a moonlit night. Every gal in Constantinople lives in Istanbul, not Constantinople, so if you've a date in Constantinople, she'll be waiting in Istanbul.
Constantinople was taken by Mehmed II, who was Sultan of the Empire from 1444 through 46, and then again from 51 through 81. Sultans are typically pictured with a big hat on their head. To be perfectly honest, it looks like a really big dumpling. Or this. This too. You just can't tell me these two aren't the same image. They are the same thing. And although his name sounds like a Muppet, this man was no fluffy puppet. He meant business. He was also known as Mehmed the Conqueror. This name was given to him by the fact that he was an avid enjoyer of land, specifically after he made Constantine XI hang himself, or die in battle. I personally believe that he hung himself out of cowardice, but that's just me. Now, this can be seen through his expansion of the empire through the Balkans and Anatolia, creating the central area of the Ottoman Empire's land around Constantinople, solidifying its up-and-coming newfound importance to the empire. Now, the Ottomans, while very good at conquering under Mehmed II, lost a little bit of their tempo further down the line, and continued to, consistently, for a while. In 1699, quite a significant day happened for the Ottomans. They were defeated by Austria and intimidated by Russia into cooperating, giving up Hungary in an agreement known as the Treaty of Karlowitz. Now, continuing down the line of major events that have happened in the Ottoman Empire's timeline, it's no secret that the Ottomans and the Persians weren't the best of friends. In fact, the Ottomans are probably just as nice to the Persians as George Bush would be. The last known large battle that happened with the Ottomans and Persians would be the Battle of Kars in 1745. And no, in this battle, a Ford F-150 didn't run over a Toyota Prius and declare victory, although I would very much like to see that happen. This battle was a decisive turning point for the Ottoman Empire, as it really had showed how much momentum they had lost over the years, having lost more men, and having more men expendable to begin with as well. The Ottoman Empire, over time, even had large-scale revolutions, one of the most notable being the Greek War of Independence in 1821 through 1829, where successfully, with the eventual help of the United Kingdom, France, and Russia, the Greeks were able to gain independence from the Ottomans, creating Greece as a whole. This was another scathing blow to the Ottomans and basically paints them as the world's punching bag. But wait, they get smacked once more. This time, really hard. They get smacked so hard they go from being the Ottoman Empire to being Thanksgiving dinner. Of course, I'm talking about the combination of the Young Turk Revolution in 1908 and the horror decision to join the Central Powers in World War I, which led to the eventual collapse of the empire in 1922. Of course, we will touch on this later. Say, Trish, did you know that non-white people can commit mass genocide?
Well, I think in a form of human equality, everyone...
You know the Ottomans really like to kill people, specifically people that were not Ottoman Turks, specifically the Greeks and Armenians, especially the Armenians. What are your thoughts on Armenians?
Well, I think Armenians are fine.
Are you sure you don't find them revolting?
No.
Well, according to the Ottomans, they were disgusting and deserved to be shot. When the Ottomans were led under Sultan Abdulhamid II, he decided that Armenians who wanted basic civil rights should die. Simply put, civil rights is something that no one but the Turkish Muslim population should have, and so he sought the execution and expulsion of up to an estimated 1.5 million Armenians. The event was tragic. The simple divide of race or religion leads to the mass death of millions. To think of all the world leaders who were simply outraged by the principles of civil rights. I mean, how hard is it? Hitler, Stalin, Hamid, Andrew Johnson, Donald Trump.
No.
Moving on from that, the Ottoman Empire spanned for hundreds of miles across Europe, Asia, and the modern-day Middle East. Although the Middle East is simply a conglomerate of Africa, Europe, and Asia, I would just like to point out that we treat it like an eighth continent for some reason, and it would be weird for me not to refer to it in this explanation. Blame society, not me. To be more specific, it encompassed most of modern-day Israel and Iraq, as well as a large part of the Arabian Peninsula, and its most important feature is Constantinople, or what is now known as Istanbul.
Istanbul was Constantinople, now it's Istanbul, now Constantinople, been a long time gone. Constantinople, now it's Turkish delight on a moonlit night.
Now, the Ottomans had some interesting neighbors. Neighbors that they really didn't like all too much, because during the 2,000 years after Jesus the fish-spawning carpenter died, everyone wanted to kill each other. Oh wait, they wanted to do that before he died too. What did Jesus solve again? Wait, I'm getting sidetracked. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the Ottomans' neighbors. To the right of them, or eastbound and down, there were the Persians. I've already mentioned how the Sultan wanted to chop off the Persian king's head and make it roll down into one of their 24-foot cannons and blast it into the walls of Constantinople during their siege. Above them was Russia, and westward was Austria, who made them give back Hungary. Sad. When it comes to partners, the Ottomans endowed France with trade, which surprises me because France isn't real. The French don't exist. No one likes the French. Je déteste les Français. Somehow, the Ottomans traded with these baguette-eating, cigarette-smoking, wine-drinking, cheese-sniffing communists through the port of the city of Marseille. They also traded with Arabia and Persia, as well as Africa through the Danube River. And one of the most important things that the Ottomans had would be the Tigris and Euphrates rivers and the Indian Ocean, all at their accessibility. Remember, water is important. Stay hydrated. If you have water next to you right now, drink it. If you don't, get up after this video and drink it. You heard me? Slurp it down. Drink the water. Other important things that the Ottomans had was their production of silk, tobacco, spices, and rugs. Turkish rugs are famous for a reason. They're very nice. You could be like Aladdin or Benny Mardones. If you don't get that Benny Mardones reference, you really shouldn't. The 80s was filled with things that should not have existed. Like, look at this. Like, this is just creepy. This shouldn't exist. The 80s was a time. It was definitely a time.
Why? 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 Why?
Now, the Ottomans had some very cold and very dry years, as they faced many droughts that had led them to trade with more of the fake Frenchies and the Venetians. A lot of their agricultural yield was based on climate change at the time and the economic activity. A lot of the basic things that they grew would be rice, sugarcane, wheat, barley, tea herbs, berries, and a few other things that they supplied like spices. Linguistically, the Ottomans spoke Turkish, a bit different from modern gobble gobble, but still gobble gobble. That's not racist, right? Like, I mean, it's almost Thanksgiving. Give me a break. I'm thinking of Turkey, the food, and the country, obviously. It's not racist, I promise. Anyway, religiously, it was primarily Islamic. Islam was the base religion for all people to follow, or they were to be set aside as heathenous outcasts. This primarily would be Christians and Jews. Those who refused to convert were usually forced to pay higher taxes and were forced to be the shortest person in the room if they were taller than a Turk. As well, if you were Christian, and you had a male-born child in the empire, you'd get a nice knock at your door with two large men coming to take your son away and turn them into a janissary. What's a janissary, you ask? You didn't? Well, that's too bad. A janissary is an elite division of infantry in the Ottoman army, of which these un-Islamic-born children, who were taken from home at a very early age, were fed lots of propaganda and put through training all their life to serve the empire's army. The Ottoman Empire, to be fair, was one of the most diverse empires at the time. It had a complex social structure because of this, and the government was socialized under an absolute monarchy led by the Sultan, and so there were different groups of individuals to handle different things. For the social ladder, though, the fancier the hat, the better. So turbans were worn by men to designate themselves that they were Islamic and of a higher class, and those turban-headed men would walk into what was classified as a bazaar, a popular form of market where many goods would be bought and sold, and lots of socialization would occur. This is very popular in the Middle East, and is the complete opposite of something that you'd like to go to during COVID. Seriously, just look at this place. Look at the amount of people here. This violates every sort of COVID rule that has ever been put in any country over the past 2 years. Good lord. Now, let's look at the Sultan. The Sultan is, as we remember, the king who wears a massive white onion on his head. Now, in order to gain this massive white onion, one must vie for this position, because as it's a nepotistic monarchy, it's left to the sons of the deceased Sultan to gain the throne. Now, this basically makes a Tom and Jerry murder situation where the brothers would try and off each other to get a taste of power. This is called fratricide. This word is fantastic, frater being brother in Latin and icide meaning to kill. This makes me think one of my favorite words in the English language, and that would be defenestration, which literally means to throw someone out of a window. We have a word just for that in the English language, and I find it absolutely fantastic. I find it peculiarly hilarious because, obviously, fenestra comes from the Latin meaning window, and de meaning the prefix to remove. Removing someone from a window is certainly a way to start many wars, because the defenestration of Prague led to the 30 Years' War. But that's a completely different fantastic historical topic that I'm not getting into today. Further than just the Sultan of the empire, there are the people of the empire, primarily Turks, but also Greeks, Armenians, Kurds, Arabs, and a few other minorities. It was a strict social stagnancy for those minorities, as they were subject to high tax, inability to gain proper positions, consistency in poverty, and genocide, which we will quickly gloss over. But those who were Turkish were either in relatively constant poverty in rural areas, or were of a higher class. And there was really no middle class, to be honest. This pretty much sums up quite a bit of the empire, but I'd like to talk about how the empire fell, because I believe that I said that I'd touch on this beforehand. Now, the world is in shambles. Lots of things were invented, lots of new guns, tanks, planes, and armor. Wouldn't it be fun to have a war? No. But yes, everyone kind of hates each other in Europe, and one thing leads to another, and a driver makes a wrong turn. Some Serbian assassin assassinates Archduke Franz Ferdinand because nationalism. Austria-Hungary doesn't like this and sends a long list of impossible demands to Serbia because they think Serbia did it. Serbia says no, and Austria-Hungary says yes. Serbia says no, but this time in big bold text. So Austria-Hungary says war. Kaiser Willy says yes, and then Russia was like, hey, don't forget me. So then France and the UK jump in, and before you know it, everyone wants to strangle each other. Why am I saying all this? Because the Ottomans decided to help out the Germans and the Austro-Hungarians, and then someone came to Europe's little fisticuffs battle. Knock knock. It's America, and we brought men, and tanks, and guns. And we're sending the devil dogs to bellow wood to make the Germans run so far Willy Wilhelm gets exiled to the Netherlands. This went on for 4 years. While all of this was happening, the Ottoman Empire was facing the Young Turk Revolution since 1908, where the Committee of Union and Progress, a secret revolutionary progressive party, forced the Sultan, our old friend, the genocidal maniac Abdul Hamid II, to reinstate the Ottoman constitution and recall the parliament. With all of this happening, the internal struggle and external crumbling, their walls too fell like Constantinople's did for them in 1453. And the Ottoman Empire was merely reduced to the Republic of Turkey with only Istanbul as a remembrance of the power that it once was.